I used to be a textbook publisher for some big multinational publishing companies. And when you are a book publisher, you realize very quickly that you either make books for rich people or you sell cookie-cutter textbooks to government. Because most of the people in the world can never buy the books that you make. In fact, we can be fairly sure that most South Africans will live their whole lives without owning their own books. Now, if you just imagine for a second, take all the knowledge in your head that you think you got from books or related to books you've read, and hold it in your hand like a little package. And imagine you could just throw it away, and it wasn't there anymore. What's left in your mind is your life without books. I don't think I would have got anything done. And most of the people in the world live this way. It's a frightening waste of human potential. So the question is, why is the world this way? And I think it's because traditional publishing works like this. A traditional publisher will first take a best guess at market needs and develop a finished product. Then they'll go and manufacture it, usually en masse, store it somewhere, then they'll ship it all over the place, and then some retailers will display some copies, maybe sell a few, and then they'll return or destroy all the unsold copies. And this is a very expensive process. Not only are there lots of links in the chain adding costs and very little value, but the risk of getting the initial product design wrong is so high. Most publishers will tell you that only 1 in 10 books actually makes any money. And so the industry's customers have to be really wealthy to pay for all of this. And its retailers have to be located close to wealthy customers just to survive. It is a problem that in South Africa we might call the trap of overly exclusive books. So we need to change the way this works. We needed what I would normally call a disruptive innovation, and I suppose can now begin to call a transformative innovation. But in the big companies I was working in, that's really difficult to do because of what Clayton Christensen famously calls the innovator's dilemma. Big customers are always under pressure to meet their current customers' needs. And so they can't invest in disruptive innovations in low-margin markets. So we needed a smaller organization. So I left big publishing in 2006 and I set up a little company called Electric Bookworks. And our aim was to create best practice examples of publishing in developing markets with a focus on technology, because that seemed like the answer. And over the next few years, we just failed again and again, time after time, in actually trying to create examples of truly inclusive books, until we realized that the solution we were looking for was not going to come from a new technology. Because new technologies, especially in publishing, require disposable income and changes in human behavior. And human beings are by their nature stingy and slow to change. We needed something much simpler, something that relied on existing technology and infrastructure, something that drew on the energy of entrepreneurs and small businesses, and something that worked for big publishing but didn't require them to change much about the way that they worked. And when the answer finally arrived during a research project in 2008, it was kind of head-slappingly obvious that there are thousands of photocopy shops around South Africa and many more in the developing world. And they're printing every day CVs and flyers, and they're photocopying books for people. And they are in city streets and rural villages. They're in churches and schools, at the back of hair salons. They're in converted shipping containers. And all we needed to do was harness their power and make it quick, cheap, and legal for them to print books out for people. The key was legal, because photocopy shops have long had a reputation for photocopying books for people illegally. Anyone who's ever studied at university has been a part of that process. And where that is true, like university campuses, it's because the photocopy shop is serving the need of a community that the formal book industry just isn't meeting. So we wanted to turn, as we've seen, these pirates into our partners, to bring an informal distribution network into the formal supply chain for everyone's benefit. So, in 2011, with the Shuttleworth Foundation as our investors, we gathered a team and we began building Paperight, a a network of independent copy shops that print books out for people quickly and legally. And on our B2B website, paperight.com, any business with an internet connection and any printer can license, print out, and sell books to customers. They pay a small license fee every time they print a book out. That goes back to the publisher. And amazingly, publishers can make the same gross margins from Paperight editions as they do from their traditional editions because of everything we're cutting out. And still, the book can cost less for the end consumer, but especially in tertiary textbooks. But even more importantly, the customer hasn't had to travel all the way down the N2 to the nearest bookstore only to find they're out of stock, or wait weeks for delivery, or find a credit card to buy a book online. They just go to their local photocopy shop. Our innovation is based on what E.F. Schumacher, a wonderful economist, called over 50 years ago an intermediate technology. An intermediate technology is a technology that is better than the poor are used to, but much cheaper to set up and maintain than the first world's cutting-edge stuff. And basic pyramid initiatives will always rely on intermediate technologies to be sustainable. But it takes humility to innovate with an intermediate technology. And ours in this way is a humble innovation. It was tough for me to realize that it is not sexy to sell printouts in coffee shops. But the power of Paperight is in that simplicity. Africa as a whole needs more transformative or disruptive innovations based on intermediate technologies, or we continue to limp forward through the rubble of 1,000 failed attempts to roll out fancy technologies that existing economies can't support. Intermediate technologies work today. Our member photocopy shops are in the rural Eastern Cape and the CBDs of Khayelitsha, and they're actually delivering books. In other words, we're solving a problem today that just wasn't available yesterday. And that's been really fun to do as well. And the potential impact is immense, particularly when we start working with partners in other parts of our industry. For instance, we've just signed an MOU with Riso, a copier manufacturer, whose low-power, high-volume machines are really great for schools that can afford these machines. And when a school buys or leases a Riso machine now, they automatically get a Paperight account and can start printing out learning materials on it. And the license fees are partly covered by Riso, the copier manufacturer. And this kind of thing has the potential to completely change the face of textbook delivery, at the very least, sidestepping the problems of textbook shortfalls in classrooms. Textbook shortfalls in classrooms right now is estimated at 3 billion rand. That's textbooks that are just the last 5 or 6 students in a class that didn't get their textbook. And that's the gap we want to fill. We believe that innovation, when it's humble like this, is actually really quite straightforward to do. It's much easier to find the real problem and solve it today. Because you can waste a lot of time working on the wrong problems or on tomorrow's problems, or sticking fancy technology and glamorous technological processes where it isn't appropriate. We also, for Paperight, for our little 10-person team, believe wholeheartedly in the value of openness. Transparency and sharing is built into our company's and our team's DNA. Internally, we're completely transparent, right down to knowing each other's salaries. We're open sourcing our code so that others can contribute to the technology we're developing. And we will freely share our stories of failure with people as easily as our stories of success. Because the returns on that openness for us are fantastic. We waste no resources trying to keep secrets. It's a huge relief. We have to confront our failures quite bravely because we're going to be willing to share them, which means we can't hide failures under the carpet. And others trust us and share with us. And that was really important for overcoming our biggest challenge at first, which was just getting the first few publishers on board to work alongside copy shops that they had long mistrusted. So over the last year, we've won a bunch of accolades and awards for what we're doing. And that's very nice and heartwarming. But actually, quite frankly, all that matters is our model delivering books. And of course it is, but we're very impatient and ambitious, and we want to deliver a lot more books a lot faster. And for that, the only way we can scale quickly is to work with partners. And so we're continually looking for partners who can help spread the word, partners who are ready to invest CSR money in printing books or getting books printed for needy schools and for early childhood development programs, and partners who are willing to invest enterprise development money in growing the small printing businesses in our network. And if we get that right, then we know that in 10 years' time we'll look back and say that this team fixed a dent in the universe and put books within walking distance of every home. Thank you very much.